Hi, everybody. This is Bill Graham from Model Railroading Live, and welcome to tonight's show. Tonight's show is What is the Track Planner Working On? This will be part four of what Mr. Bill Baronic, has been doing in a series of shows that we've had on, and this will be the part four. I believe this will be the last one for this season. And then going forward, what we'd like to know, uh, well, before we get to that, let me just say welcome to the show tonight. It's April 13th, 2022. We're coming to you live from the greatest city in the world, New York City, and Staten Island, New York, to be precise. And this is the Model Railroading Live channel, the number one model railroading show in the world, if not the universe. Why? Because I said so. That's why. But we are, and we're all free. Nothing to pay for. It's all free. Free is for me. Anyway, with that said, I want to welcome you guys tonight. It's been a real couple of weeks, busy here at the homestead. Finally got into the train room because if you noticed last time I was broadcasting from my dining room, we were remodeling everything in the house and we're coming to the end of it, and which is good. We had the doors put in and the moldings going back on the floor and the walls and the trim and whatever else they got to do. I don't know. Every time I turn around, it's costing me more money. And so I don't know. But anyway, tonight's show is going to be with Bill Baronic and the Track Planner, aka the Track Planner, and it's what is the Track Planner planning or working on. And just to give you guys a heads up, my show will Who's Big Bill Talking To will be on next April 20th, Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're going to have a special guest, Michael Dettinger. Mike Dettinger is part of the duo crime crew of, him and Mr. Barry. I forgot his last name. Him and Barry, they do the Amherst show. What do they do? The clinic, the Thursday, Friday clinic up at Amherst. And from what I understand, they'll be doing it again this year up in Amherst. But he's part of that. Mike Dettinger is also a good friend of the Model Railroading Live community and the programming itself. So he'll be on, and that will be a good thing. And that will be a show that we're going to talk about other shows that Mike Dettinger and I have come together and have discussed, and we're going to do a collaboration, either a 4 or 5 part series. So you guys should tune in to see Who's Big Bill Talking To with special guest Mike Dettinger at 9 p.m. That's Wednesday, April 20th. On the 21st, Thursday, of course, it's Johnny's Train Talk Show. That's where you guys are invited to come on down and be a part of it. And if you got a camera, come on in. We'll give you the link and you can be part of the show. If you have something you've been working on, bring in brag, bro. And that's a good thing. And if you have a question, a problem with any model railroading issues, by all means, bring it to the table. Someone in that room knows something. If not anything, we can get it done. So that's good. So April 20th will be Who's Big Bill Talking To. April 21st will be Johnny's Train Talk Show. All shows on Model Railroading Live are at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And what we're doing here tonight, like I said, this is part 4. This is the last show for the season with What is the Track Planner Working On with Bill Baronic. But going forward into September and into the September season, the fall season, we'd like to know from you guys what you guys would like to see. if anything, what kind of ideas that you have, you can send it to us. We'll scroll the email address down if you like, or on our Facebook page, Model Railroading Live, and we'd be more than happy to accommodate or to implement any of the ideas that you guys or suggestions for future shows that will be coming back in September. Let me see who we got here on the old ticker tape parade. Let me see. There's a whole bunch of guys. You guys came in. I think you're looking forward to this show. So I'm going to cut my talking down. Ethan Ameridge is him. He says, my name is Uncle Ethan Ameridge. Hey, well, okay. Grandpa Rails is here. John's Train BFGR is here. Wig Wag Workshop is also in the house. M. Sil Hunter 5 is in the house. Dwight at Northern Star. Hey, Dwight. John Benetsky, please excuse me again. John is here. Derek Alexander's here. It says here he's been waiting for this one. Good. Lynn McGurdy and the HDMMRC are in the house. Let's see who else is here. Anybody new? Paul Muscat is in the house. Hello, Paul. And he's from Malta. So, what time is it there, Paul, in Malta? And Possum Bayou is in the house. Ethan Amridge, he wants to. Well, not tonight, Ethan. Tonight, this is a basic show, but tomorrow, not tomorrow. Next Thursday, Ethan. If you tune in on Johnny's Train Talk show, you can be part of it. You can be part of the thing next Thursday, the 21st. Let's see who else is in the house. Spartan 10 Guy 82 is in the house. Human City Junction. Heath, how you doing, buddy? Let's see who else that we got in here. Model Railroading Live. Yeah, hi to myself and to the guys behind the camera. The Pixel Depot is in the house. Let's see. Ethan, we didn't skip your name. I just mentioned that this will be the third time. So, but my apologies to you, Ethan, if you felt you were overlooked. It wasn't really my intention to do that, my friend. Who else do we have in the house? Going down the list. M&M Rails is in the house. How you doing? Let's see. Who else before we get started? That's basic. Oh, okay. That's basically where we're at. So to reiterate, just trying to think of anything before, I'm thinking I'm not going to hurt myself. I know. But I'm just thinking here. I hate when I think. So are you guys ready for this? Robert Holman just stepped in the house. Dolce Vita 51 from Whitefish, Montana is in the house. Way to go, Dolce Vita 51. Howdy from Whitefish, Montana. Man, we're all over the world in some parts of the universe, man. I'll tell you that. Anyway, so we're going to get started. But before we do, just want to, again, I'm plugging away at our shows, boys. Plugging away. Who's Big Bill talking to next Wednesday evening, April 20th, with Mike Dettinger as my guest. Johnny's Train Talk show, April 21st, with Johnny's Train, and come on down, 9 p.m. all shows. So without further ado, let me bring on the track planner, aka Bill Baronic. Let's get ready to rumble.
Am I allowed to do some business over this channel?
Absolutely, Mr. Baronic. Absolutely. The floor is yours. Go right ahead.
The gentleman from Malta is the one I'm designing a track plan for.
Oh, that's right. That is right. Yes.
And just so you know, Paul, I'll be sending you an update probably tomorrow. That was there's my business.
He was probably all anxious.
He probably wanted to know what the heck was going on. Yeah. But interesting thing about
Yeah, he saw the check cashed and he was like, "What the heck?"
That's right. Well, I think this is actually probably the fourth or fifth update I've sent him, so I haven't totally forgot about him.
Nah, that's good.
But an interesting thing, Johnny asked me before the show started. Tonight's show is going to be kind of an interesting show, folks. It's the show where you'll see the layout basically done at the end. The gentleman is about 90% done with it on that. But the interesting thing about it, it is N scale. So is Paul's layout in Malta N scale. But the difference ends right there. Paul's, I'm modeling basically from almost Vancouver, which is staging, all the way to probably Winnipeg, which is about halfway across Canada in N scale. That's a lot of miles we're trying to model here. The one you're going to see tonight, the total mileage from one staging yard to the other staging yard is on the prototype 25 miles. So you're going to see a layout here that takes up 25 miles of actual physical mileage on the railroad.
Wow.
I think it's probably the smallest one I've done, but it's one of the neater ones. The gentleman, Jim, that's designed it, that built it, did a great job. And you're going to see some really good pictures. As a matter of fact, there are some pictures there that I'm going to show you. I think you might be hard pressed to even realize it's N scale when you see the pictures. So
that's good to know, and I'm glad to see that that you are reaching out worldwide now.
Well, Paul reached me. What he wants in a layout is going to be great. It's going to be fabulous. How he gets the material to Malta is probably another story in itself. There.
Well, Paul, if you are listening, and I hope that you are, I'd love to have you on Who's Big Bill Talking To. We have to work out some time difference. We can work out some special. If we have to do it on a Saturday where it would be like, 9 o'clock in the morning our time, and like at least whatever afternoon time for you. But I'd love to have you on the show and talk about your layout and how the obstacles that you have to overcome in living in Malta. So
yeah, it's gonna be interesting. We're probably 60% done with it right now.
Before we get into the show tonight, Bill, Mr. Baranek, the track planner, and I, we've been having many a conversation over this series that we've been doing, and one of the things is that the gentleman, the people that Mr. Baranek has been talking about, Mr. Baranek has reached out to and asked if they would be willing to be on Who's Big Bill Talking To. So we're also in the process of getting those guys who've been mentioned on this show and their layouts to come on to Who's Big Bill Talking To. So look for that in future, Who's Big Bill Talking To. We're going to do that too as well.
Well, what we think, reason Bill and I talked about this, I think it would be great to get a perspective from the owner of the layout as opposed to just listening to me talk about it. That's like the one you see tonight, Jim's layout here, basically done, did a great job, did a fabulous job with it. And it makes me feel good when I see these layouts being built, because I honestly have no idea when I design these and I take people's money, how many of them really get built on that. So,
right.
So it's nice to see this when this happens.
I have a question. I think it's from Human City Junction. Before we even got the show rolling here, he wants to know, how do you choose a track planner to design your layout? I know a few and like what I have heard from all of them. Any advice on how to know whom or who to work with?
Well, we all have websites, and we sometimes do things differently. And that I tend to try to keep it a little simpler not quite as complicated there. And as you'll see in the show here, because I've mentioned it in every show so far, I've got 7 elements that I try to abide by when I design. I think it's more important for the client, because where we are the designers, that trying to figure out, does this client really want a layout that operates prototypically, or do they want a layout that they can watch trains run on? And that's 2 entirely different types of layouts. I've always said, and I probably said it in these shows 2 or 3 times, I can design a track plan for you that will operate prototypically, but if you want to run it as a rail fanning layout, go right ahead. What we can't always do is design a rail fanning layout, and then you come back a year or 2 later and say, gee, I'd really like this to operate prototypically. Because if I designed it for rail fanning, that I wasn't thinking prototypically. I was thinking more viewing the layout, just watching trains go by.
Right. And before we get started, I just want to address Ethan Armoridge. Ethan, I know that we've mentioned your name earlier, and I'm sorry that you just came back on. Your request of that you want to show off your O-gauge Lionel train out today on the StreamYard. Unfortunately, we cannot accommodate that, but because we have a special guest of Mr. Baronic. But what I can do is on Thursday of next week, on the 21st, we'll be having the Johnny's Train Talk show, and you can go on that show, and he'd be more than happy to have you on, and you can show off your Lionel O-gauge Railroad. Okay, so. Well, thank you for your enthusiasm and for wanting to show it off. And we definitely do want to see it, Ethan. It's not that we don't, but tonight, we're doing this show. So, Mr. Baronic, please continue.
Should we get started here?
Why not? Let's get right into the meat of it.
Okay, let's see if I can bring it up. That's the first thing we got to do here. Can we see it?
Yes, the program's purpose. Oh, now we just went into, there we go. You're good. Program's purpose. That's what you wanted to do, right?
I want to go back to this. We might as well start at the beginning. What the heck?
What the heck?
Okay. First few slides for you people that have been with me for the last 3 shows are going to basically be the same. For the people that are new, it will be new to them. So just put up with this for a few minutes here. The purpose of these programs have been that I like to give insight into how I take a client's dream, and that's really what they are, dreams, and take it from an idea by using research, conceptualization, and for me, because I'm so damn old, decades of track planning experience, and finally end up and make it a reality for the client. This is the purpose of these programs, to show you kind of a start to finish. Tonight will really be a start to finish program. You're going to see it from the conception right through the finished product. My BIOS, everything's the same as it always has been in there. I retired in 2001, moved out to Colorado here. I've been a member of the Northern Colorado Model Railroad Club since 2002. I've been president a couple times, treasurer a few times, been on the board, things like that. Started designing professionally in 2014. And now that Paul's watching, I can give him another plug. I had to change the slide, Paul, to go to 7 different countries since you got a hold of me. So now we've added Malta to my slide here. I also subcontract with a company called Affordable Model Railroads in Tennessee. They build custom model railroads, everything from benchwork and track to full turnkey systems. I do 60, maybe 70% of their designs, their builds, I design for them. YouTube, what I'm doing right now, I try to do some instructional videos. And then the Modeler's Journal magazine, I write an article in that. That comes out 4 times a year. As we talked earlier about my philosophy, it's really 7 elements: prototypical operations, walk along main lines, narrow bench work, long mainline runs. Trains travel through scenes once. That's a little different. A lot of times you don't hear people talk about that. Peninsulas with view blocks. That's really important if you want to make the layout feel larger. And if you want to make it operate prototypically, you really have to have some type of staging yards. The software I use, as most of you know, is AnyRail. It's much less complicated than Third Planet. I have Third Planet, but I hardly even touch it at all there, because AnyRail does everything we need. If you go to my website, you'll see all these questions, and these are the questions that I ask everybody that contacts me. They have to answer these questions, and this is what gives me a reasonable idea of what the client wants to do. Okay, let's start out, and again, with this client. This is an N-scale layout tonight. You're going to see, folks.
Hey, Bill.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt, but I do have a question that I think I have a question.
Sure.
It's from Mohammed Model. Let me see. I know this lady. Oh, yeah, it's Mohammed Model Railroad. I know this woman. Tina. Hello, Tina. How are you?
Las Vegas, right?
Yes, Las Vegas. Yes, hello to Las Vegas. Mojave Model Railroad. Tina asked, not sure if this has been discussed when you do the designs. How detailed is it? Do you have blocks and wiring that go with it, or just the track planning?
I try not to do blocks and wiring for one simple reason. It takes longer to design that than not the blocks. I can set the blocks up fairly quickly. But if you start trying to run each individual wire and show it on the plan, all of a sudden the cost of the plan almost doubles. It's like bench work. I don't put all of the bench work in because, again, it can be done. I've done it on a couple of layouts, but it just doubles and triples the time it takes to design the layout. And the problem with bench work and wiring to a certain extent, I guess, I don't know what the ability of my clients are. Like in bench work, I don't know if my clients are, professional house builders or somebody that, has trouble figuring out which end of the hammer to use. So it's very difficult for me to design the bench work and still, know that the client can handle it. Wiring, that's a whole, you're going to see in this program tonight, you're going to see some of the best wiring. I've shown you really good wiring in the other 3 shows. Wait till you see about 4 slides I'm going to show you tonight about how to wire. And
the hammer, it's not the head of the hammer with the thing that you hold it, right, and bang it with.
Grab it by the handle. That's the important thing.
Oh, the hand. Oh, that's why a lot of those nails are bent. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, no, I can do it, Tina. I've done it. I don't encourage it. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, Eric out there. Yes, Eric says he has a question about the layout. So, yes, please ask the question. Eric will get to it. Go ahead, Mr. Baronic.
Okay. So the space the gentleman has was fairly modest. The rectangular part of it, 15 by 10. And then we had a space that was about 9 feet long with about 32 inches wide. And this is what we had to work. This is about a half or 2/3 of an attic room up in this gentleman's attic there. Where the dotted line is, that was our boundary on the kind of the north side, if we're just using the drawing here and that. And you'll see this as we go through this. What are the givens? The givens are this. It's going to be N scale. He wanted to do early modern, proto freelance, the one I love to do. It's the best way to go. This one is different than the other layouts. This is point-to-point operation with staging at either end of the point-to-point on it there. Where we did narrow bench work, we do have a center peninsula. It's a single track main line, but we did add in a couple fairly long passing sidings to it there. The gentleman is using car cards and waybills to operate the layout prototypically, which is what I recommend highly there. I've used all the ones that are out there, and I always come back to car cards and waybills. Someday I could probably do a whole program just on car cards and waybills.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Okay. Yeah, we did. We learned about that, didn't we, Billy?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. And then the other thing that he added to, we didn't add to it, he wanted it built into layout, was he wanted a branch line to a coal mine. So those were our basic givens that we had to do with the plan. Okay. What are we working on, or what are we designing? Because it is a proto freelance. We're doing Eastern Pennsylvania, basically just north of Philadelphia. There, it's an east to west route, or west to east, whichever you want to talk about. The towns are from Easton, and if anybody out there can pronounce that name, because I can't pronounce that name there. That's where we're going to. Easton is staging on one end. CAT, whatever, is the staging on the other end. And we have four towns on the layout. Easton, again, staging. And I'll show you what he did with the staging, which is kind of interesting there, because it's open staging, but it's just not bare wood. Bethlehem, Allentown, and then the town I cannot pronounce there. Some of the design features, again, point to point, no continuous running on this layout. This will be the first one you've seen me design where there is no continuous running. This is a true point to point track plan. We have some minor elevation changes, but in N scale, minor elevation changes can really do wonders for the layout. I'll actually be showing you a couple of photographs of the layout that's where he did some elevation changes and how it turned out when he did the scenery, because it looked great. Again, the car card and waybill system. And the interesting about this layout, as opposed to Paul's in Malta, the total mileage of the area we're modeling from staging to staging is 25 miles. And again, I think that's the shortest railroad I've ever designed for someone. This is a picture of Pennsylvania. Basically, it's from the west border to the east border, north border to the south border. The little square block you see is the area that we're modeling. Now, this is, I laugh about this because I've done a number of track plans in Pennsylvania. For some reason, I do get quite a few people that want me to do track plans. But usually what they want is they want to go from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh, and they want every town in between. Well, here we're doing basically 25 miles of layout here. And that box is actually probably about a third bigger than it needs to be there, but that's the area. Here's kind of a blow up of the area and how the track runs there. And starts in Easton, goes through Bethlehem, goes through Allentown, and ends up at the town again I cannot pronounce there. So, but again, that looks, I'm sure to the folks watching, this looks bigger, but that physically in railroad miles is only about 25 miles from end to end there. Okay, the design phases that we went through here. This one here, folks, you're going to see very little adjustments to the track plan because we kind of caught it and hit it on the nose at the beginning there. And this was my first conception of what we would do. And what I was simply trying to do here was get the two staging yards in, make them equal size so that the trains would always fit on either staging yards there. And then in the middle of this room, and again, remember the room's only about 10 feet wide or so, we had the peninsula in there. As we go along here, you're going to see I didn't deviate a lot from this. We did a lot of detail work, but I didn't deviate the track plan from what you see right here. And this was, again, this is what I call phase one of the plan, just kind of getting will it work based on the radiuses that we were going to use, the kind of turnouts we were going to use, things like that. This is the same track plan you just seen, but all I did here is make sure the bench work would fit and we had proper aisle spaces there. And I've left the aisle measurements on there so you can see them. We're at about 28 inches on the low side, and it goes up to even bigger than 31 inches. But I think for the people watching, what you just seen in these last two photos is opposite of what the average model railroader does. The average model railroader would look at this space and figure out how to build bench work in it, and then try to figure out how to put a track plan on the bench work. I do it exactly opposite. I design the track plan preliminarily, and then we design the bench work to fit the track plan. There, it sounds backwards, but it's absolutely the way that you should do it. Here's the final track plan with everything added. And I'll bounce back here for just a second, just to kind of take a look at that. And then when you come here, now what you're seeing is the finished product with all the track in place and everything. And as you begin to see now with this final version, there's a lot going on this layout for it even to be a small layout. There's a lot happening here. Any questions, Bill?
Not yet. As far, Ethan says he has a question about the layout, but I'm still waiting for the question, Ethan. The Human City Junction says, the thing I just went, you're hearing the Discord come on. I have Discord. So Discord is coming on when you guys type into the message board. So the pinging you're hearing was coming from my computer. I just went and muted everything that was on Discord. So hopefully we won't hear it anymore. So I do apologize for that. But You Are Naked 44 says you can get rail fanning with the Bernard's collection to see that area in 60s and 70s up on the Conrail. John Piconis Media, there are previews on YouTube. But what Randall Ellis says, what would be the minimum radius be on the curves for that plan?
I think on this one here, Jim could tell you because he built it. I don't remember, but I very, very, very seldom ever design an N-scale layout with anything less than 16 inches. And I always try to go 18 or 20 inches if at all possible. Lots of N-scale equipment says it'll run on, 13 and 14 inch radius. I don't design anything with that sharp of a radius.
That 13 Randall Ellis, this is an N scale layout.
This is an N scale.
Yeah. I would. Yeah, 13. Did you say 13 or 14 inches on that?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of. If you look at a lot of N scale equipment, they'll tell you right on the package it'll run on 13-inch radiuses. See, a 13-inch radius, Bill, is if you equate that to HO scale, that's about an 18-inch radius.
Right. Well, okay, so that would be the minimum.
Yeah, that would be
you on N scale.
Yeah,
okay.
That's that, and I try not to do that. But the problem with N scale is if you get much below 18 inches and you're running passenger trains, they don't look good, even though they're small and tiny and everything.
Oh, right, because you got that cantilever going on as it goes around the curve.
They just don't look good. So
right, you want that smooth transition.
You want the smooth. That's right.
Right.
I don't think Jim ran any passenger trains on this layout. I honestly don't know for sure, but he may not. Okay, this is again, folks. This is the finished product from the standpoint of how the bench work was going to be laid out and how the track plan was. This next slide shows you the finished product there with the buildings, the town names, the staging yards, and all of that stuff there. So this was the plan that I sent to Jim to get his final approval on this so that he could actually start building it. There's a lot of other things that happened besides this. Is I have to go in and I have to spend sometimes a couple hours just putting the measurements in, putting all the measurements in, so that the client knows how to cut the wood, how wide is the bench work. I don't show any of these on these shows, but that alone can take a couple hours to get all the measurements keyed in and everything. But
it's a very, very Robert Holman says the same thing. It's a very busy layout design.
It's a busy, yeah, and I'm not a big fan of a lot of track work, but you have to remember on this one here, where were we modeling? We're modeling Eastern Pennsylvania. There's a whole lot of people there.
And major railroad hub.
Major, serious railroad hub. That's exactly right. And that, so, but again, and again, I hate to keep dwelling on it, but keep in mind, this is 25 miles is all we're modeling here. But
still a condensed 25 miles.
Yeah, and if you look at it from my point of view or Jim's point of view of this is an operation, a prototypical operating layout, there's a lot you can do with this layout. This layout could easily keep 3 guys busy for 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah,
easily.
Absolutely.
Because you need one person just to handle the yard, and then 2 guys running trains, and that'll eat up 3 or 4 hours, really, really quick. Okay. Yeah. Now, if there's no more questions here, I think I'm going to start showing you some of the pictures of this layout and as it was built. Oh,
no.
Okay. These pictures, folks.
I'm sorry. Before you go, is Human City Junction wants to know, is a minimum radius about looks or about preventing string line derailments?
Well, string line derailments normally only happen in helixes, and that happens for, there's lots of reasons you have a string lining. If you've got, it doesn't have to be a helix. Maybe I should rephrase that. A lot of times it is helixes. String lining has to do with maybe the radiuses being too tight, or maybe it's got nothing to do with the radiuses. It can be too light of cars behind the engines and too heavy of cars behind those cars. That's where you get string lining. There is, if you want to, you always want to, and the railroads had the same problem. They've had Horseshoe Curve in Pennsylvania here, not too long ago. They had they shoestringed a train there because the train was set up in the yard incorrectly, and they put some lightweight flats in front and put some heavy stuff behind it, and got about halfway through the curve, and it shoestringed on them, and they lost a bunch of cars there, and that was a makeup of the train. Same thing can happen in model railroading. You can have the proper radius, but if the train isn't built correctly, you can get shoestringing.
Yeah.
And I see it happen most of the time in the layouts I've operated on over the years. Most of the time it happens in a helix. And why does it happen in a helix? You've got usually a constant 2% grade going in a circle, which causes a lot of friction. And then the big mistake people make is making the helix too tight a radius.
Right. Correct.
For the equipment they're running. You always have to relate to that. Okay, let's go look at some pictures here. We'll do the bench work first. Now, you're going to see some very good quality bench work here, but it's also the thing that I enjoyed about looking at these pictures. It was very simple. This is not complicated bench work by any stretch of the imagination. And Jim did a very, very good job of doing this. What you're seeing here is staging in the front, then the peninsula, and then the railroad against the back wall. The other staging yard would be off to our left as we're looking at this picture. There's a picture of the peninsula itself. The cutout that you see on the grade, that's the grade that goes up to the mine. That's where the mine is going to be on the other side of the view block, but to get to the mine, the branch line started on this side of the peninsula here and that. But again, Jim did very good bench work in building this. There's the other staging yard over by the door that you would come into the room there. So this is Easton here that you've seen. The other one was on the west end of the railroad there. Jim also did a real good job on the track laying. He did a great job of laying track, I thought, on this layout. And this is again showing you a picture, kind of looking to the west there. What he's also added, which he did kind of a neat job. I don't think I would have even thought of it doing it that way. Those frames you see in the center are the frames for the view block that he'll eventually cover over and everything. But again, I think you can see the quality of the workmanship here is very good. Here's looking back the other direction now at the layout, and where you see the black, that's where the mine is at. And then you see the track that's coming up to the mine there, the what we call the branch line that came up to it. Main yard is on your right there. That's in Allentown. And on the left is Bethlehem over there. And this is stepping back, kind of taking an overview as much as the layout we could get in and see.
I like the idea, like someone, the Pixel Depot says, I really like those frames
Yes.
for the backdrops.
Yeah, that was a great idea, because on this one here we didn't design the view block to have curves in it the way I designed it, but Jim did it with curves in it, as you'll see in a couple more pictures here when we show you with the masonite up on it there. Now here you're seeing basically the same thing with the fascia. Now at this point he's already got all the wiring done and everything there.
Right.
I had one of the guys that he's probably watching the show right now too. The layout that you've seen last month, Chuck Bay's layout. Chuck and I were looking at this picture the other day, and Chuck made the comment that I didn't even think about. He said, I wonder if his fascia is too deep, goes down too far, and does that make it harder to get underneath the layout? And
yeah,
there might be something to be said for that. Personally, myself, I think it's got a really clean look to it.
Yeah, I have a question. It says, Human City Junction asks, do you recommend flat bench work with rises or building the rises into the bench work?
No, I personally am a huge fan of the cookie cutter design if we're going to have a lot of grades. And this layout technically has a cookie cutter to it. If you want to talk about the mine area, that's cookie cuttering there on it. But I on my layout, my personal layout, any place where there's switching moves, it's perfectly flat. Anything between the switching areas where there's a grade, it's simply a 4-inch wide plywood cut to match the track plan. And no, I don't use risers. I don't like Woodland Scenics risers. I don't advertise those in there. Now,
Right.
that said, here's the interesting thing. James Adams, who owns Affordable Model Railroads, I designed many layouts for him where we have to get the grades exactly to a number, because what does James do? He uses almost exclusively Woodland Scenic risers.
Oh.
And he uses foam also. So,
Okay.
he's in California right now building a layout that I designed about a year ago for him. And that layout has a lot of ups and downs, and I'm sure he's using the Woodland Scenics on that. And when the layouts get done, I don't want to knock Woodland Scenic at all, because when James gets done with his layouts, they look fabulous. They look great.
Yeah, sure.
You know,
Robert Holman says, in regards to the fascia, it gives him room to hang curtains and we all wait. I've got the question. It gives him room to hang curtains and hides the taps behind the fascia.
Yeah, that's true. And I think when you see the wiring here in a few pictures, I don't think Jim's going to have to get underneath there very often.
What
Okay.
what room is this? Is this an attic?
This is upstairs in an attic. Yes, you see the way the roof pitch is there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, something else to comment about here that I almost skipped over. I think this is a really good example of what track lighting is, why track lighting is important.
Right.
You see, he had that fluorescent light in the room there, but that doesn't cut it when you're doing a model railroad. I'm a huge fan of track lighting. I think that's a great way to go. And that, because you can adjust them, you can light up scenes, you can do a lot of things with track lighting that you can't do with a fluorescent fixture.
Right.
And this is, again, now this is on the other side of the peninsula, kind of looking back towards the west there with all the fascia done. And again, you see that little bit of an elevation change there between the mine and the yard there.
Right.
Kind of keep that in mind, because I'm going to show you some scenic pictures here in a little while of that area and how neat he made that look when he put the scenery down.
Mm-hmm.
This picture here shows his the backdrops being installed, and then it shows some pictures of his control panels. I'll show you another picture of the control panel in a second here. But what I'd like that Jim did with this layout is everything is fairly simple. There's nothing complicated. These control panels, they're just very simple, uncomplicated, and I think it was a great way to do it. And that this picture here is one you'll see numerous times when we show you the scenery, and you'll see how much it changed from this picture to basically the finished product there. I think you'll be surprised. And of course, there's the center view block now with the masonite attached to it, and it's curved. If you notice, there isn't any sharp breaks on it. Jim has it so it has a nice curve to it, which I think is exactly what it should be.
I think what's interesting too on this layout is, for a lot of model railroads, I'm only speaking for myself, but you notice how he's building this. You know, usually there's a sequence of order when you're building a layout. You know, like you do the framework, then you lay the track, and then you kind of do the the background drops.
Right.
But you can see where he's already started weathering and detailing his tracks.
Yeah.
You know,
That's right.
it's kind of like skipping ahead.
And I don't, I always tell my clients, get the track work done, and then I want you to run trains for a minimum of 90 days. I'd rather have you run trains for 6 months before you start doing any scenery. And I also tell all my clients, don't you run the trains. You bring somebody over, you give them a throttle, and you let them run trains on your layout, because I can guarantee you they'll find trouble that you'll never find yourself.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And the best person to come over and run your layout for you before you start doing a lot of scenery is somebody who doesn't know how to run trains.
Yeah.
Because they'll find it. I can guarantee you they will. And I think the problem for most people is people, like I say, well, get the track work done, wait 6 months before you start seeing. That's hard for people to do.
No, you're correct. It is.
It really, really is hard. I completely understand that. Okay, now we'll show you what I've been talking about here. Just so you know, before I go to these pictures, Jim, when he was working, worked for the phone company. So this might give you an idea of what you're going to see here from the wiring standpoint there. There's a control panel, and that control panel is not a lot different than the one I showed you that on Chuck's layout last month there. And Jim has 2 of these on the layout. There's one on this wall, and then there's another one on another wall. So I think he may have it divided up into, I don't know how many districts he has, but he has 2 of these control panels on the layout there. There's underneath the layout, you see the fascia and everything, and that looks pretty clean, but I'm going to go to another picture here in a minute and show you how really clean this is. And this is the Jim could hold a class, believe me, in how to wire a layout. and do it properly there. If you'll notice, there isn't many wires just hanging down.
No.
Everything has a run to it. Everything has a place to go. And I just think, I think he did a fabulous job on this wiring. Take a look at that.
Oh, yeah. That's a little OCD for me, though.
Well, I think I kidded Jim when I talked to him one time. He could tell you. I says, I think I should have bought stock in that terminal block company because I think those come from, I don't know if they're European or what they are. I don't think they're made in this country, but there's enough terminal blocks on here that maybe you should own stock in it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really great. Someone,
but it just shows you somebody who does this as a living professionally, how it bleeds over into his hobby.
Sure. The Pixel Depot says, "Can he come and do my wiring?"
Well, he's a very, very nice man. Bill might have him on. If Bill has him on, you can ask him. You can see what he says.
Absolutely,
because he can tell you how much work this took. I just look at it.
Is this what he does for a living?
He worked for the phone company. I think he wired. I think that's.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he'll be able to tell you exactly what he did. But yeah, he knows how to run a wire. Let's put it that way.
Lynn McCurdy of the HDMRC says, "This looks very much like the modules I have and others in my module club." But then again, we had NASA engineers in the club.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the problem with wiring that I've seen in a lot of layouts is there are people that just hate wiring.
No, you're right. You on Naked Force says he wants a tattoo of that wiring.
Yeah,
very sharp looking.
It very is. Well, and see, some people just hate wiring, and you know the people that hate wiring when you look at their wiring. Because it's hanging down. It isn't. There again. Try to find a wire that's hanging down here. You're going to see one or two, and that's about all you're going to see there on it. It's amazing.
Yeah, but it's hanging down with a purpose.
It's hanging down with a purpose. Yes, there. And I congratulate Jim on this because the other side of it. And all kidding aside, folks. If he has a problem somewhere, it's really pretty easy to troubleshoot your problem when it's set up. Now he understands and he knows what all this means. To us, it looks confusing, but I'll guarantee you to him, it's not confusing. He knows exactly what's going on here.
Right. Human City Junction says, "I love wiring. My favorite part of building a layout. It is the veins and arteries of a working layout." To which the Pixel Depot says, "I hate it."
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, just for a second on this picture, I want to show you something that the average person, me included, wouldn't do. You see the big square block right in the middle of the picture. And then
yes.
To the left of that block, you see that terminal strip.
Yes.
Look at how Jim wired to that terminal strip. He just didn't go straight over to it.
Right. He went up and like in a U.
That's
upside
right.
down U.
Now, some people might call that obsessive compulsive. I call that clean. That looks very clean.
Right.
On that. But it's just a little, I've studied these pictures for a while now. And it's just, every time I look at it, I pick up something different about what he did here and how he did it. But that's some really, really good wiring, folks, when it's all said and done. Okay, let's talk about a little bit of scenery. We'll talk about some other things. Here's his control panel. And if you look at that, that is about as simple as it can get and totally functional. Totally functional there on it. It didn't go overboard, didn't make it super fancy. It just works.
Right.
Okay, let's look at some scenery now. I like what he was doing here. He took the backdrop and he painted it and he put the clouds in it. And then Jim will have to tell us, and if and when you interview him, Bill, I would like to know too. I think in front of the clouds, that could be backdrops painted. That could be printed backdrops that he simply has cut out and pasted to the skyline.
Right.
Then he brought in the three-dimensional plaster and rock and things like that. So there's kind of 3 layers to this backdrop
Right.
there, which I think looks great. I think it, and you'll notice, folks, he's got it all covered up because he painted the backdrop first before he started doing some of the scenery work, because it's a heck of a lot easier to do it then than to try to come back and do it.
Yeah.
When you're reaching over things and that. Oh, and there's kind of a long view of it there. And this is where it starts to add depth to the layout.
Yes.
It's looking great. I think this is great. And if you look down on the bottom there, underneath the layout, there's his second panel for the DCC system. There, that's where the other panel sits on that. This track in front here that runs off the edge of the layout,
right?
Jim wanted an interchange track, so that's the interchange track with another railroad. And how that operates prototypically is there'll be cars sitting on there at the beginning of an op session that a train will come over from the yard. It'll pick up those cars, and then it'll drop off cars that were going to be picked up the night later that day or overnight by that particular railroad. So that one little track right there actually functions and can take and run one train and keep one operator busy for 15 or 20 minutes or longer, just switching those cars out there. Interchanges are kind of fun to build into layout designs.
Yeah.
This is in the corner of the layout. It would be, if you were looking at the drawing, it would be kind of the northeast or northwest corner of the layout. And this is just kind of a break point where if you continue turning, coming down into the lower right-hand corner, you're coming into staging there.
Yeah, Human City Junction states that let me see. He says about the interchange track. He says I've done that. He says I've run trains off the edge of my layout, and I don't even have an interchange track. Ethan Average wants to know how many trains can be run on this layout.
Well, I think there are 6 or 8 staging tracks on each staging. So that equates to 12 to 16 trains. And that does not count the trains that would be built and made up in the yard. That's a whole nother story I can do, YouTube video I can do about trains running and what kind of trains run and how many trains run. But just in staging alone, I think it's set up for, I know it's a minimum of 12 trains, 6 out of each staging that can be run, plus whatever runs, again, gets made up in the yard and gets run. Oh, now we can tell. Heck, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like there's 6 there to me.
Yep.
Okay, so if there's a matching 6 at the other end at Easton, that's 12 trains that can run in an op session. There, and you just see the mountain scenery there. Finally, we're kind of getting something that looks like Pennsylvania a little bit for some people.
Yeah.
If this is kind of I like this scene because this shows you what you can take perfectly flat bench work and you can make it not look perfectly flat.
Yes.
How you do the scenery. There's the finished product.
Very nice. Very
good quality scene. Very nice scene there. This is kind of preview of some of the other scenery you're going to see on this layout. This would be up at the mine, looking back towards the east, so to speak. And what's interesting about this scene is now he has the backdrop painted. He's added those background pictures to it, and he's added the trees. And the depth of that is probably only 2 inches, maybe 3 inches at the most. But it sure looks a lot deeper.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. There. And then off to our right here is down at the yard. And that's where we have that little 2 or 2.5 inch height difference. But it sure looks like it's more than that there.
I also noticed that he's got working signals on this.
Yes, he does. He does have that also. Yeah. Well, he's a phone guy, Bill. He could figure this out, right?
Human City Junction wants to know how long has he been modeling?
That is I don't know, and I don't want to speak for him. I do know this. He was a member of a model railroad club for quite a while. And
Oh,
uh, and I'm sure that, and I know he did some design work and he did some work on that layout that helped him. I don't exactly know if it was track work or scenery work or what, but he still may be a member. That I honestly don't know for sure on that.
Tina from Mojave Model Railroad wants to know what is the time frame on the build for this?
I designed this and again, Jim could tell us easier. I designed this, I think, 2 years ago, not 3 years ago. I think I designed it pre-COVID. Let's put it that way. There, and this is how far he's come with it, basically in about 2.5 years.
Is the gentleman's name James Kalawaski?
Yes, is he listening? Is he watching?
Yes, he says 20 years.
Okay.
20 years. James, welcome to the show. We thank you very much. I do have to tell you, and I think the rest of everybody in the community is duly impressed with this layout and with the workmanship and the eye to detail. So from all of us to you, James. And we're doing a standing ovation. You may not see it, but we are doing a standing ovation.
Yeah. I've got a few more pictures that are even better.
Oh, absolutely.
They're even
I
better.
have a question, though.
Sure.
You on Naked 4 wants to know, how does the Mind branch connect to the rest of the layout?
I was waiting for somebody to say that because people weren't picking up on that. This is a Mind branch that's a pull up, and it's also a pull down, but it could have been a pull up and push down, because this track you see here that's running along curving along the backdrop, all that is the drill track for the mine there. What I've added to the mine area was one runaround track. And by adding that one runaround track, the engine can be on the head end, can pull the mine cars up to the mine. This runaround track will help you switch it. And this yard lead is long enough so that James never has any trouble switching cars in and out of there. After the loads get taken out and the empties get put in, then the engine could use the runaround track to get back on the front of the train and go back down the hill again, and back into staging.
Human City Junction wants to know, are the tracks hand laid, or what track did he use?
Jim can tell you that. I don't think they're hand laid. I think they're flex track.
Okay.
I think it looks hand laid to a certain extent.
It does. Looks very good.
Absolutely. This is one of my favorite scenes, because this scene here, you're a little hard pressed unless you look at the track to even think of this as an N scale scene.
That is correct. He says Atlas Code 80.
Okay. Okay. That's what I figured. I thought it was flex track that we used on this here, but yeah, I think these are super trees here, I think is what he used here when they flocked them a little bit. But that I think that's just a really neat picture.
Yeah, that is. I love the engines.
Yeah, I like that picture there. And there's some of his finished scenery along that wall now with the plastic protectant down and everything. And again, Jim has an eye for detail, folks. I don't.
Well, you know what's interesting about this is the striations of the rock formation that he has.
Yes.
Was that to get that, James? If you're still on, and I hope you are, is that ceiling tile that you used to get that rock? If you can, the weathering looks really good on the track. It looks hand laid. Human City Junction says.
See it. Yep.
Very nice.
This is one of my other favorite scenes.
Oh yeah, that's sweet.
This behind that bridge is this Easton staging. That's just a staging yard, stub-ended staging yard back there.
Well
But
camouflaged.
it's all camouflaged. And what this bridge does is it breaks up the staging area from the main layout
Right.
there. And I designed it with a bridge in there, but I tell you what, I wouldn't have, excuse me, I wouldn't have come up with this arch idea and everything he did, because I think that is cool. I think that really, really looks neat. And plus, he's got the street lamps on the bridge and everything. But this is a great view block. This is basically what it is. It creates a view block.
Yeah. James says on the rocks it's plaster carved.
Did a great job.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, this is another scene, folks, where I think you'd be hard pressed to realize this is N scale.
Yeah. True. Very true.
You know, it just doesn't have, you know, what some of us have a perception of N scale. And I've built an N scale layout. I know what it is. And that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now let's look at some of the buildings that Jim put on this layout there. And he also made good use of backdrop buildings to give everything depth.
Bill, if you don't mind me asking, do you know what era this is? What year it's?
He told me to do early modern, which I kind of take that to be from, you know, late 50s into the early 60s.
Okay.
Our early 60s, late 60s, early 70s, just, you know, 20 years one side of that.
Good eye there, you are naked.
So, and also look at the road there with the oil droppings and the cracks in it. And,
oh yeah, very, very. The detail is what. Yeah. It's all in the detail.
It's all in the detail. That's exactly right. There, and again, a backdrop building that he's made good use of there, and I don't know if that's a scratch. If Jim Scratch built that, or that's a commercial kit available. I don't think that's Bill. You know, ITLA, is that an ITLA kit or not?
I don't know. I don't think it is. It might be. I don't think though. It is. Know.
Good, nice looking building though.
It's a kit. It's a kit, he says.
Okay.
I don't know if it's from that laser art though.
Yeah. Good. Nice.
Looks like one of the buildings they would have.
Yes, that's right. Looks similar to it. This is one of my favorite buildings he has on the layout. There, he did a great job of weathering this and getting the brick to look good.
Yeah.
Just all the detail on the loading dock there. What I also like about this one is the fire escape steps that are on the wall. That just brings out great amount of detail. All those signs that are pasted below that.
Mm-hmm. Also, the gas meter and the
gas meter. Yeah, just the little details like that make all the difference in the world on these things. And also something that a lot of people you don't see do is that loading dock incorporates both truck and rail.
Yes.
You can do both on it, which I thought was that's a neat way to do it. Also, and this is. Now, what this is doing is kind of giving us a depth perception of we're looking off the edge of the layout back to that just one of those printed backdrops, you know, that aren't that expensive. But if you put them in the right places and you put the right things around them, they really enhance the layout. I think they really, really help it. And this is a neat building too. I kind of like this building that he added. This is a scene here before he put the bridge in. And you see the staging back there. This is a oil company, refining company there. And again, very nice detail here. Not a very big space, only one track going into it, but there's a lot going on in that scene.
He says these are Motrack models.
Okay.
The oil, is that the Genco oil company? Related to the Corleone family out of New York.
Now Jim might know that.
I know that the Corleone family has been expanding their business interests, so I was just wondering.
Yeah. Well, this one looks a little better shape than yours does, Bill.
Yeah, well, it's
They're making money now.
yeah. They're trying to go legit.
That's exactly right. They're trying to go legit with it and that. There's that this is coming out of Easton Staging, coming onto the layout now before he's put a lot of trees in. But it shows you how that backdrop really gives it depth. And because I think that benchwork right there is probably only about 18 inches deep, right in that area there, and just good.
Looks amazing. It just looks so amazing,
isn't it? Though I mean, that's the track on your left is the one going up to the mine. The one on your right here is the main line that runs around, and that, and looking good. I mean, it really does.
Absolutely. And again, the detail to it, it really lends. It's like you don't, even though the picture is on a curve and it's the corner and you can see the fascia, the picture itself lends that your eye is attracted to the work, to the track work, as well as to the scenery. And the fascia, even though it's, obviously present, you really don't see it.
No, that's right. No, he's done a good job here. There's where he's starting to. He's got the big General Electric plant back there, and you see the oil company here in front. But now he started to add these trees, which trees really make scenes. They just really complete everything on that. I get accused on my designs of putting too many trees in, but I always tell my clients, if you'll put in just half of the trees that I put in, it'll look good. It'll look fun.
James says he's from New Jersey. That's what he's saying.
Okay.
A New Jerseyan. He's a New Jersey guy. Jersey boy.
Kind of a neighbor, right, Bill?
Yeah. In fact, I live in Staten Island, James. So the Goethals Bridge is right down, the expressway.
If you look in the right-hand corner of this picture, you'll see the car card waybill system that Jim uses, and he did what I did. He added the picture of the car.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up.
Yeah, that's just a terrific idea, and you can't believe how easy it makes for your operators to find cars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
James says he's presently living in North Carolina.
Yeah, I thought he was. This again, I'm just a big fan of car cards and waybills because I operate on a number of layouts, and the majority use the car card and waybills, and it's just a very successful system.
Yeah. Sparky 107 says, I really like how smooth the fascia is. That is a fantastic finishing touch.
It really is. No question about it.
Yeah.
Fascia finishes the layout. I totally agree with Sparky on that.
Yeah.
Absolutely does. This is kind of a neat scene here.
Yes, very.
There's only we only got 4 tracks here. Really, only 3 tracks are the two main lines, and that just it isn't overpowering. But he's got the right amount of buildings and detail, I think. In this.
Yeah, Bernard C says, "Wow, James, your craftsmanship is really amazing."
Yeah. Well, and again, folks, this is why it's fun for me to design these layouts when I see this happen to my designs.
Yeah.
When I see this finished product, it makes it worth it. I mean, I'm 75 years old. For me, I have to charge for it, or I would be I'd have to quit doing it because I'd get besieged. But for me, it's not all about the money. It's seeing this finished product here done, and the enjoyment that Jim has gotten out of building this too.
Yeah, Spartan guy 82 says it feels like you're in a large city with just a backdrop and not a ton of buildings.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
it's
if you're looking at it and you see just the way James says it's very much worth it. But when you look at the 2 cars that are sitting in the signing and then the 1 car up front, you can actually envision the switching possibilities that go with that as the switcher engine comes in. What type of equipment do you use? Is it diesel, or do you mix since it's a 60s, tail end of steam? Do you have steam, or is it just basically all
I, I,
all
I
diesel?
think it's all diesel for him, but he can tell you. He'll tell you there.
Hmm.
There's nothing.
Human City wants to know, what is the track spacing here? Do you have any idea?
I don't know for sure. Most of the time on N scale, I used to have my minimum set at 1.25, but I've moved to 1 3/8 for most of my designs, so we don't run into we don't run into a problem with side swiping on curves. So I honestly don't remember. Again, I designed this almost 3 years ago now. This layout, so I don't.
James says that he uses RS11s and no steam, and it's 1.5.
Okay, okay. Now, whatever we did,
Yeah, there you go.
he'll know. He's living. There's another thing about this scene, not to belabor the point here, but I think it's a kind of a neat thing. That street that he's got running down there with the taxi on it and the trees on either side, if that doesn't look like a real street in a town, I think it's just a little detail, and that really
Sure.
sets that off.
Sure.
You feel like you're looking down a real street.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
Okay, this is one of my favorite scenes too. There's that 2 inch or 2.5 inch height difference between the mine and the yard there, and it's just a little bit, but doggone it, in HO scale, it's enough. I mean, in N scale, it's enough to make for a neat scene.
Absolutely. It looks busy. It looks congested, but it looks wide open at the same time.
I think one of the things on his layout that nobody has mentioned yet, and I was waiting for somebody to mention it. If you'll notice his colors, folks, there's nothing stark.
No.
Everything is subtle. Everything
Mhm.
is kind of dumbed down, as they would say. And that's exactly what you want to do on scenery.
Mhm.
You don't want deep greens, or you don't want bright yellows. You want everything kind of dumbed down a little bit. But
Right. Sparky 107 says, sometimes I wonder if it is too late to inquire of the track planner to do my layout, but I'm half done track. But I should have. So if anyone is thinking of a great layout, ask the track planner to help. What I will address to that, Sparky, is that you have the foundation of a layout. Yes, you have the track down, but you also have just the prairie plywood going. Never too late to start over again. Never too late. You can repurpose the track you have there, utilize what you have, and work something out. So it might be to your advantage to, check out what Mr. Baronic has to offer.
Well, I can certainly, I would be happy with anybody to talk to them, and I'm more than willing to give ideas out, and that there's nothing that I consider to be proprietary to myself. You got to pay me to get the information. I just don't work that way at all.
Yeah, James. Yes, absolutely. I agree with you, Bill. And I don't mean to. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Right.
I just wanted to get to what James said. He said mostly sanded grout.
Yeah. There's the same scene, just a little different picture of it. And I noticed too that he lighted the mine. Mine's got lights inside of it.
Yes.
But this is kind of a neat scene, because you see this scene, and then you think back. One of the first photos I showed you was of this part of the layout with just the plywood there, and how much different it looks now. Oh. Well, I think we're getting close to the end here, folks. This is my last picture, and I put this one in there that Jim sent me because I liked the depth of the picture there, and shows. Jim also did a good job on weathering. It's not too weathered, but it doesn't look like brand new either. Everything is I personally feel is weathered just about like it should be. And
Yeah,
that
no, it's subtle, but it's eye catching. You know.
that's right. That's right. I'll be happy to go back to any of those pictures if someone wants to see something again. I can go back through them pretty easily. But
Yeah, well, it says here that late night model railroad says, I love using grout. Lay it down and wet it, then just wait and it's done. James also says sanded grout is cheap and lots of color.
that's
You
true.
know, it is
That is true.
very, very detailed. You know, a lot of the detail and a lot of the in the structures and and in the details of it. It really just just the barrel and the oil cans and stuff like that.
Well, and I think also, Bill, nothing is overdone.
No.
You know, it's all it all kind of you kind of look at, well, yeah, that should be there. You know, that's the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's a yeah. I think Jim needs to be commended. I think he did a hell of a job here.
In Human City Junction wants to know, how do you get the water to soak into the grout? I tried laying it down dry and then wet it, but only the top got wet. I used wet water.
No, I don't know. Jim will have to answer that.
We have to have James on the show.
Yes.
So if you will give Mr. Baronic permission, I will give Mr. Baronic, and I'll let him share with you my email address, and please get in touch with me so we can schedule something for you to come on Who's Big Bill Talking to and stuff. You know. You Sparky says might be worth the phone call. See if the track planner info is in the description after the show. You can go to www.thetrackplanner.com and it will bring you to his website. And he has an absolute questionnaire that you can fill out, and it's very, very in depth. And anything you know.
Well, and I want everybody to understand that all I did is design this. What you're seeing here is all Jim. He's the one that took the design and made it come to life. There, what I do is pretty stark when you think about it. He actually took it and brought it to make it look like a living.
Oh yeah, a living, breathing entity.
Yeah.
You know, a really, truly living, breathing entity. I would be remiss if I didn't mention this with Robert Holloman and us from Model Railroading Live. We now no longer on an after show viewing where you guys can come in. We don't do it on the other channel. We now go with Discord. And you can go and find us at discord.gg. It's highlighted up there, RWCVNXAE. If you guys want to copy that down, you guys can come in after the show. Usually the Model Railroading Live crew, Andy, Robert, Ralph Renzetti, and Jason, and a couple of other guys always pop in there. So if you want to join in and have a discussion or just shoot the breeze, you're more than welcome to. So if you get a chance, please, don't hesitate to jot that down. We'll put it up there again for you to see. So we're not on Whereby. We used to be on Whereby. I lost it for a moment and stuff. So and so Discord. So be more than happy to,
I'd like to know that this is the first layout that the folks have been able to see a finished product. This has been one of my favorite ones to do because it's a start to finish. I hope everybody enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, Bill. I have to say from the Q&A, it seems to be it went over big. Sparky earlier said, I don't ask a lot of questions when this series is on because I want to absorb and learn as much as I can. So yeah, it absolutely is a big a big hit
Yeah.
with this. You know.
I'm gonna go ahead and come back on screen here if it's okay with Johnny.
Yeah, sure.
There.
You guys can what do you call it? This is the part 4, and it's the last series that will be done in regards to this series, but doesn't mean it's ending. So what we'd like you to do is, if you would get in touch with us at or on when we go to, when this gets archived on YouTube, in the comments section below. There we go. In the comments section below, if you would see if you have any suggestions, of future shows that Mr. Baronic can do, and just.
Well, what I think they need to understand too, the reason I was able to do these 4 shows is my clients were kind enough to send me pictures, which I totally enjoy looking at myself. But that's when I got the idea. I thought, well, wait a minute, we can do a show where it's kind of from conception to a certain point. And I can't do these shows unless I get pictures from my clients. And as of right now, I've done a lot of them. These were the 4 that I had that I thought I had enough information to make the shows interesting. And that what I'm talking about in the fall is with Bill. If there was things that you folks wanted to talk about that dealt with track planning. A good example is the car cards and waybills. I think everybody pretty much understands that I have my favorite, and there's reasons I don't like the others. And the people that use the others can have just as strong opinion as I do about car cards and waybills. But I'm not only a designer, I'm a person that operates on a number of layouts out here in Colorado, and there's 3 or 4 of those layouts. There's 2 of those layouts that are world-class layouts that I operate on. So I'm just not a talking head. I've actually done what I would tell people. I've experienced it.
Right. So that's something that we can do. And again, in the future, we're also going to have, it's been, Bernard C says, oh, it's been an amazing show. I'll be rewatching for sure. And we appreciate that. Build a track planner equals satisfaction. So thanks for all the comments. James says, thanks for all the comments. Very much appreciated.
James, they were well-deserved.
They were, James. You put a lot of work into that, and it's good to see the fruits of your labor get rewarded in such that,
Did you notice something, Bill, that happened in this show? Nobody said a word about the point-to-point operation, did they?
No.
That didn't even come into the picture. Think of it.
Late Night Model Railroad says, it would be nice to see a live designing of a small switching layout. Nothing crazy, but enough to get a flavor of concepts to understand in planning.
Yeah. You just don't know how boring that would be. So, because I'm the kind of person when I design, to get from point A to point B, I probably went through 26 other letters to get to that point, because I never quite get satisfied with something. And that, because if I'm having trouble with a design, the first thing I do is I get up and I walk away from it for 2 or 3 hours, and then I come back and the mind's a little clearer. Things are a little more.
Derek,
go ahead.
Derek Alexander says, I would love to see a show that covers yards and then separately how to incorporate them into reverse loops.
Okay, those things like that are simple for me, because those are things I design all the time. That's what I have to always remember is what is simple to me, and I do on basically a daily basis with these designs. Some people have never heard of it, or even know, why would you do this particular thing? Why would you design it this way or that way? James in Tennessee there, the Affordable Model Railroads, him and I go around all the time with designs, because the reason him and I work so well together is designers kind of get a bad rap because the old story of, well, yeah, you designed it, but you didn't have to build it. Right? And
Yeah.
So James is really good with me and kind of keeping me on the straight and narrow so I don't go too far out into this crazy world of designing. Because, like he always tells me on the ones I do for him, he says, "Remember, Bill, I got to build this thing."
Yeah. That's the ultimate truth. That's the ultimate truth.
Exactly right.
James writes in here, this is a Joe Desmond inspiration. Are you friends with Joe Desmond, James? Because that's my bestest buddy. I've been to his house a couple of times and have operated on his layout. Spartan Guy 82 says, would you consider demonstrating an example of an op session on one of those layouts, or how it would be set up?
I think we could do that. Well, Jim's layout here would be a great example because we don't have reverse loops on staging, but that doesn't mean anything. We still can run 12 trains plus what would come out of the yard. Yeah, I matter of fact, if it was okay with Jim, I would use his layout as an example. Because
sure. I'm speaking for him. Like, yeah, sure, go ahead. Paul Muscat, maybe a show on operations and how they can affect the design.
He knows all about that because his design. I don't mean to be speaking for Paul, but I think he told me he originally lived in Canada. There, that's why. And I'm doing the Canadian Railroad for him, and we've put in it's N scale, but we've put in all the major scenes. The Cisco bridges that cross over the Fraser River, we put that in. First layout I've ever designed with the spiral tunnels, we put the spiral tunnels on his layout. And if you folks that are listening don't know what the spiral tunnels are, just Google spiral tunnels in Canada, and you'll see what they are. I've ridden on a train through the spiral tunnels. I was in Canada on a train trip a few years ago, and I've been through the spiral tunnels. And I got to with Paul's layout, I got to design a layout with the spiral tunnels.
Yeah, Paul says he's from Toronto. He's Toronto.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought he was from Canada. There.
The Pixel Depot says a lot goes into setting up an ops scheme. I've done a few, and it's a ton of work, but it's fun.
Yes. Well, I've just started this year. I charge for it. If somebody wants a full-blown ops session report on their layout, and I write the report specifically for the layout that I was designing. Those reports are about 15 to 20 pages long, and they go into some fairly good detail about how to evaluate how many cars an industry will take, how to evaluate, does the industry get switched every day? Does it only get switched once a week? What type of cars go to the industry? And what type of trains do we run? There's a lot of detail that I've learned over the years from operating on these really high quality layouts that it's hard to, when you're an operator like I am, and that's your sole focus with the hobby, to really get it across to people who don't operate, who just want to watch trains run.
Right. Derek Alexander asks, he says, I did ask earlier, I do apologize, Derek, if I didn't get to the question, if he considered connecting the two ends to have continuous running or to have automatic restaging, I believe, if it was just
we talked about it. Again, I don't want to speak for Jim, but I don't think it was important to him. I think the prototypical operation was more important to him, and we simply didn't have the room to do it there.
Late night model railroad says, how much operations planning is done well before the design is even contemplated? Most of it, or only some of it, or all of it?
That's a good question. I don't worry too much about the operations on it until we're into the project. A couple things happen here. If take example of Paul there that lives in Malta. Paul has very specific things that he wanted from this layout. He wanted Canadian layout. He wanted these scenes that he wanted to have, and Paul's layout is going to be an interesting layout in construction. It's two scenic levels and then a staging level. But the main level, which would be, I guess you could call it the middle level on Paul's layout, that is going to be all the mountain running through the Canadian Rockies. That whole, and he's got a big room. This is not going to be a small layout I'm designing there. Not a tremendous amount of switching. We've got Kamloops. We have some switching in that area and that, but it's more yard switching and interchange switching and that. I've moved up to the upper level, which is everything pretty much east of the Rockies that I'm designing. We're going to have a lot more operations there because we're going to be going through smaller towns, and those towns will have small industries in them and be a lot more switching going on the second level, even though the benchwork is going to be narrower because the second level always has to be a little narrower than the first level.
Mm-hmm.
But the planning, if it's a prototype, I used to be obsessive compulsive about, do we need to run exactly this train, that train, and that? I really don't get that involved in it there. I try to design the track plan and then write the report so that the plan can operate prototypically. Are we running exactly the trains that run during that era? No, I don't get that deep into it because most people that want to operate, they're more concerned about operating. You don't even need to have scenery on a layout. I've operated on numerous layouts that have no scenery. They're plywood layouts, but they're fully functioning, prototypical operating layouts. You'd be amazed at how little you think about the scenery when you're actually running trains and you're operating.
Yeah.
It's
very good. Well, this was an excellent close of a show. And I do believe that we have a future in this coming in September of next year, of this year, actually, not next year, this year. And I'm very interested in exploring it and working on new ideas with you, Bill.
That's right. So everybody understands, Bill, it's golf season out here in Colorado now.
Well, hey, it's baseball. Baseball season opened up a couple of weeks ago, and I missed the Met game was on this afternoon at 1:05, so it was good. Either that, I would have the radio here with my earpiece, listening to the Mets play the Phillies. And
we all have our priorities.
Yeah, we all have our priorities. You're absolutely. Let's go Mets. That's what I say. That's right. Yeah, we're definitely going to be looking into this, and we're definitely going to be, putting our brains together here over the summertime to come up with new content and new show.
And again, the comments we got tonight from those guys, if they'll put that in writing so that we've got something for you and I to look at, because we've got to create a storyboard here of some kind.
Yeah, that's why at the end, put it in the comment section in the YouTube if you rewatch it, or if you don't rewatch it, just put something in the comment what you'd like to see and what we can come up with. And we really like to explore it and do it, and get new contact out there and stuff like that. And it's good. And that's the same thing next week when I have Mike Dettinger on. Mike Dettinger is a very, very smart guy. He does modulars and T-Track and a whole lot of other stuff. And he's come up with an idea for a show in next September too. But we're going to premiere his new show in May, and we're going to do a spin-off on that, and then we'll give it that. So we're as you guys can see with the Discord and Johnny's Train Talk Show and Who's Big Bill Talking To and these series, we've been we're putting the content together and we're putting it out there for you guys to enjoy. Yes, I did say T-Track. That will be Mike Dettinger next week. So Bill, I want to again thank you so very, very much for coming on and taking time out of your busy schedule and presenting this, because I know your ultimate interest is in the hobby itself and in helping other modelers get some really good results from designing and just having a good layout design.
And I want to thank Jim for coming on because he answered some questions that I honestly didn't know.
Well, that was good. And thank you, James, for being part of it. And I hope to have you on Who's Big Bill Talking To. First and foremost, we do this show I do this show every week, or every other week or whenever I do it. Who's Big Bill Talking To in these types of, series that we do. And I never, ever give the thanks and praise to John Mitchell, who does the heavy lifting, I have to say. John is the guy behind the scenes, and he's the guy that keeps everything running smoothly. When the internet goes out, he's the guy that's, pulling whatever hair he's got in his head out, and he's, chomping on the bit there to get us back on. But on the whole, 100% of the time, he's got us running perfectly. And I never get a chance to thank him. And I purposely want to thank him for being the producer / director of this, the shows that
Absolutely.
we have. And you guys should tune in on Thursday nights and check him out. So thank you, John, very much. Spartan Guy 82, thanks. I've learned so much from these videos. Well, that's good to hear.
That's great. That's fantastic.
So that will be it from us. Just hang in there, guys. I know we're coming, just a word of, I'm not going to get, political or anything like that, but just want you to know, guys, we're living in really perilous times now, and everything is whack. What's up is down, and what's down is up. But remember, just be nice to each other and pay it forward in some shape or way. Recently, you've heard we've had a little incident in New York City, but you know what? New Yorkers are strong, man. Can knock us down, but you ain't gonna knock us out. That's for sure. So just hang in there, everybody. As long as you're waking up every morning, that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. So with that said, next week, April 20th, Big Bill, Who's Big Bill Talking To with Mike Dettinger, and then the 21st, Johnny's Train Talk Show. With that said, I want to thank you for being and watching. Thank you, Bill, for being a part of the show and giving it. So you guys out there, you be well, you be safe, but most of all, you be blessed. And we will see you on the radio.